morning. Welcome back to the second lecture of this sustainable manufacturing. It's a continuation of our previous lecture, the beginning introduction lecture about the production management and as well as aspects related to it. In the previous class, we have discussed about the different type of production processes and like the single production processes and the batch and the as well as the mass production processes. And we also mentioned at that point that depending upon the type of the process or the layout of the system, the strategies that are used to convert them into sustainable will also change. So, let us first talk about the initial one, which is called as a single or a fixed position layout system. So, a single one is that you are basically making one unique product. The most important example of this is, let us think about a shipbuilding or construction. You are building a big building or you are building a big ship, battleship or an aircraft carrier, something like this. The main important thing that should be realized is that the products in this case, the products cannot be moved. You are typically building products that are immovable or in a way a ship moves, or you are like, what do you mean by immovable product? The example is this: in a normal manufacturing, let us say you have machines like these. Let us say this is machine 1, machine 2, machine 3, and what happens is the product moves from one machine to another machine to another. So, the machines are stationary, product moves. This is the conventional manufacturing. Whereas a single or a fixed position layout, it is also known as a fixed position layout, because in that case the product does not move. So, the product will remain here. Let us say if you talk about a ship, the product remains here and the machines, raw materials, man, all of them move to the product. So, when you are building a ship, it stays in a dockyard or shipbuilding facility, and the shipbuilding facility, the ship gets built, everything else comes to the ship gets finished and then it is used. Same is with building a building, the building remains on the ground and product and all the other related man, equipment, goods, everything else come to the stuff. It is usually when the product is too fragile, bulky or heavy to move. Okay. So, the fixed position layouts, the products are big product, and the equipment, the materials, the workers and other resources are brought to the production site. So, the resources, all these resources typically travel to the product. Okay. The few examples of this is of a fixed position layout or a single product layout, one unique product layout is the equipment utilization is usually low. So, your equipment, whatever the equipment you are using, the utilization is low. Specifically, what is the reason why it is low? Because many a times it is cheaper to leave the equipment idle at the site. So, if you see some of the big cranes that are built on construction sites, you will see these kind of, let us say you are building a flat like this. Let us say this is a flat, you will probably see a big crane that is standing there. You will see that this crane is standing there even when the flat is finished, because it is cheaper not to move the crane sometimes. So, because the reason is the cost of moving is very expensive, and most of these times such equipments are leased or subcontracted, and hence if you want to make this as a sustainable process, then the strategies that are required to do this is quite different. And same way the other things, where the system, where the conventional system where the machines remain stationary and the product moves, the approach will be different. Okay. So, let us talk about the batch and the serial process layout. So, the batch and serial is also called as a process layout because the factory or the facility is set up based on the processes that are involved. It is also called as functional layouts most of the time. what happens is in a layout, because group the similar machines together in departments or work centers. So, when somebody talk about a work center or a similar machines grouped into a department, and then from there this grouping is based on the process or functions they perform. So, if you have 5 lathe machines in your factory, all the lathe machines will be grouped into one department and it is called as a lathe department. If you have 10 drilling machines, it will be grouped into one department and called as a drilling department. So, hence these departments are created based on the functions, based on the processes or functions that they do. That is also, that is why it is called as a functional layout. So, in this case, if you look into some sustainable initiatives, you might have a departmental initiative. Why? Because everything is grouped as per department, as per functions. So, such type of layout are also called as, in the management term it is called as process layouts, because they are grouped by the processes that are involved. Okay, this is very common characteristic of intermittent operations or job shops or batch production. So, here you are not producing too large quantities. Classic example of this would be furniture manufacturing. Okay. You can think about as bolt, nut, screws, engine blades, or aircraft engine blades, all of these kind of things are typically done as a part of a job shop. So, where what happens is you produce it in small batches or limited batches. Okay. And why do you produce in limited batches? Typically the requirement of the customer varies, or you have a variety of customer. Your customer has diverse variety and they have different needs. So, one of the major advantage of this is this process layout is it is flexible to suit diverse customer needs. So, you will be in a furniture manufacturing, you will see they are making chairs, but they will make many different varieties of chairs. Wooden chair, the style of the wood will be different depending upon the person who is manufacturing that. The cushion color will change, the polish will change, the height will change. So, a lot of aspects will come. So, there are diverse variety, and the customer who comes in, they will say I want this particular type of chair, I want that particular type of table. And so, to accommodate those kind of diverse requirements of the customer, you end up having this process layout or a functional layout, or where you group the machines as per the function or the process they do. Second part is we talked about limited or a small batch, because the requirement of each customer is relatively low. If a customer comes to buy a dining table, he would probably say I want 4 chairs, 6 chairs, 8 chairs, maybe the maximum of 10, 12 chairs, not more than that. So, you will never produce 200 chairs of a particular type. You would probably only produce limited quantities of the chair, because the requirements are changed. So, what happens is, since customer has diverse needs, the production process should be able to adapt, or it should be flexible. Okay. Hence, the process layouts are used for low volume or small batch production, in which variety of customer needs are suitable. So, there is really not much of a standardization, very limited standardization. Okay. And the part is the sequence of operations that are required, or what are the steps that you need to do to complete each customer order can vary considerably. So, if somebody say, for example, you are building a chair like this, all wood, then you probably would just require simple joining and polishing. But if the same person makes the chair with what we call as, let us say, cushion, Then we have what we call as joining plus pasting, where you are pasting the cushion onto the wooden frame will also come into picture. So, depending upon the customer requirement for the same design or whatsoever, you might end up making it the operations required to fulfill the customer need or customer requirement can vary considerably, and because of that you will incur setup times. We will talk about setup times later down the road. Okay. The main advantage is, as I said, of this setup is flexibility, and the main disadvantage is inefficiency. Okay. See, typically it is considered that batch or serial production is tend to be inefficient. So, if you are trying to achieve sustainability here you are trying to achieve sustainability in an inherently inefficient system. Hence, it should be clear that you will still be able to achieve some level of sustainability, but you might not be able to achieve a very high level of sustainability as expected, because the process is inherently not very efficient. So, if you look at a layout, if you want to draw a factory out of this, you can think about this. Let us say this is we are looking at the plan. So, this is your floor area, and let us say that there is a place where you are receiving the parts. Let us call this as parts receiving or raw materials or whatsoever it is, and let us assume that these are all lathe machines. Let us call these are lathes, different lathes. Then this whole thing we can call it as the lathe department. Okay. Then let us think about some other machines. Let us call these are all drilling machines. So, then this becomes the drilling department. Okay. And let us call these as grinding machines. So, this becomes the grinding department. Okay. And let us say we have somewhere here you have the different milling machines. So, we will call this as the milling department. Okay. And here is where the parts shipping comes into picture. So, if you track a raw material that is coming in, let us call this as A, and if you say A requires a lathe, a drill and a mill, and it gets out. So, then A will come here, then it will go to the lathe department. It might be assigned to this particular machine, so it will go to this machine. From there it has to go to the drill department, so it will go to the drill department. Let us say it is assigned to this particular drill, so it will go to this drilling machine, and then it will come from there to the milling department, and let us say it is assigned to this milling machine, so it will come to this milling machine, and from there it goes to the part shipping, and then it will get shipped out. So, the A will travel this way. Let us say a product, another version of A, let us call this as A2 comes in. It requires a lathe, drill, grind, then drill and mill. Let us say if this is what is going to happen, then if that product comes in, A2 comes in, then A2 will come to the lathe department. Let us call this as A2, this is A. A2 comes to the lathe department. Let us say it is assigned to this lathe, so it will come here. Then from there it is assigned to this drilling machine, so it will go from there to the drilling department and then goes to this drill, and so this is A2. Then it has to go to grind, so let us say it goes to the grinding department, and let us say it is assigned to this grinding machine, so it goes here. So, this is A2 again, grinding department, and then it has to come back to the drilling department, so it comes to drilling department. Let us say it is assigned to this drilling machine, so it comes to this drilling machine. So, this is A2 again, Then from there it has to come to milling. So from here it will travel to milling department, and let's say it is assigned to this milling machine. So it will come to this milling machine and then it will go out. So pretty soon you can see that the product flow, the flow of the parts, the different parts in the system becomes too complicated pretty soon. Things are moving all haphazard manner here, there and all. Yes, you can make diverse type of products because these are general machines, generally functional departments. Okay. So this is by the function of planing, drilling, grinding, milling. So they are organized by functions and it allows flexibility. Okay. But in that process you have much more complications because you have to travel. So you can kind of see that the part goes to drill, drill goes to grind, grind comes back to drill, then goes to mill. So all over the place you will see parts going here, there. So the flow in this system is quite chaos or haphazard, and because of this kind of a haphazard flow you will actually see large queuing, you see large build up of semi finished goods is a part of such a system. Okay. So this diagram to a large extent helps you to understand how does a process layout or what we call as a batch or batch processing or batch manufacturing, or sometimes people call it as a functional layout. Okay. How does this schematic, how does it work from, if you look from a bird's eye viewpoint. All right. Then comes the mass layout, or which is one of the most heavily utilized system. It's also called as a product layout. So this mass layout or the product layout, to a large extent they are in the business of producing large quantities of the same product. Okay. So in the primary words or the common management terms, it is also called as assembly lines. Okay. So assembly lines, it is called an assembly line because the machines that are involved in manufacturing process are arranged in a linear fashion, they are arranged in a line, and the arrangement is how are they arranged in the line? Not just in any random fashion. In the process layout you have seen that the machines are arranged wherever you find the space, you put the machine there as a within the department, but here they are arranged in a linear fashion according to the sequence of operations. So the sequence in which you are supposed to do the operations, the machines are arranged in that particular sequence in a linear fashion, so that if the product goes through each one of the machine, at the end of the day you can assemble the final product. It's called assembly line because at the end of the day you are assembling a final particular product. The most common of this is automobile manufacturing. Okay. Automobile manufacturing is called this way purely because of the fact that automobile is like you have parts, raw materials, engines, gearbox, tires, sheet metal, paint, they are all coming in as inputs in one way and they go through a particular sequence. Towards the end you get actually completely assembled car, a car ready to drive away. Okay. The idea here is that each product that you are manufacturing has its own specific line. Most of the time the lines are specific to a product. Remember this, lines, the production lines are specific. When you say lines, that means they are production lines. Production lines are specific to a particular product. Okay. And here the main advantage is that the workflow is very ordered. Okay. Because the machines are arranged in a linear sequence based upon the operations that are necessary, and hence it is also efficient because it is arranged in a fashion in which, so there is no haphazard flow, things flow in the linear fashion. Okay. And since you are actually dedicating, because dedicated production lines, the advantage is that you can purchase special machines or very specific machinery can be procured. Okay. And what is the advantage of this very specific machinery? You can choose efficient machines, because it is dedicated for a particular task and only for doing that task. Hence, you can choose very efficient machines, and hence the overall system is, so its overall efficiency of the system is high, and hence if you try to do sustainability in this, you can actually get better results, because you are already dealing with an efficient system. So, if you try to look at a schematic of this, so then you can have something like this. Sorry, my drawings is not very good. Let us call this as different machines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, something like this. So, the parts come here and they move through this in a linear fashion, one after another, okay, like this. They move through each one of those machines, and after the machine 11 you get a finished product, finished or slash assembled product. If you want to make a different product, then you you can call it as a production line 1. If you want to make another one, then you have to do the same thing. Let us say you want to make a smaller different version of the product, then you require something like this, machine A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Again the flow is linear, the product comes, the parts comes in, they go through the machines in a linear fashion, and then you get the finished product, and the parts come here. So, this will be a production line 2. Okay. So, for each particular product that you are trying to think about, okay, this is a finished product 2, this will be a finished product 1. So, for each type of product you will have specific assembly lines or specific dedicated production lines, hence that is why it is called as a product layout, because the layout is by the product, the machines are arranged by the product. So, for a system like this, since it is arranged by the product and you are only producing that particular product on a production line, it is easy for you to implement efficiency measures or improvement measures in this regard. So, such systems you can say that the sustainability initiatives will be by product. In the previous case it was by department, in this case it will be by product. I hope this makes things more clear to you guys all. So, earlier we talked about production operations, we kind of mix and match the term. So, at this point I would like to distinguish between the two terminologies called production and operations. Okay. So, when you talk about manufacturing, specifically manufacturing, then production is the transformation process. Both production and operation are transformation processes only, but production is the transformation processes that is part of manufacturing, whereas the transformation process in services is called operations. Okay. So, in a way the transformation process is a value chain. So, in a product layout, if you look at this is the chain. Okay. So, as when we move in each one of this chain, what we do is we add value. Every step in this chain adds value to the product. That is what we do. We keep on moving in a chain. So, the transformation process in manufacturing is called production. The transformation process in services is called operations. Okay. So, but typically people use these terms interchangeably, but when in this course where we are talking about sustainable manufacturing, we will be more focused on this particular term called production. Okay. We are more interested in that aspect, and whether it is production or operations, both do add value to the inputs. So, you have certain inputs and you do value addition, and how do you add value? The value addition happens through transformation process. Then you get what we call as outputs. Okay. So, when this output is a good or a finally finished good or something, then that is called manufacturing or production, which is service, it becomes operations. Okay. So, typically the people who work in this area, the people who look into these kind of things are called productions or operations managers, or sometimes known as PO managers. Okay. The productions and operations managers, their main aim is to actually work on the system, and they are supposed to do improvement, they are supposed to better the systems. So, always look for opportunities for getting things better. Okay. So, when we talk about operations management or production management, okay, let us call this as production management also, same way. It is about design, operation and improvement of productive systems. Any system that is doing a value addition. When productive system means any system that is doing a value addition, that is a productive system. Okay. Or another way to do it is system for getting work done. You are adding value to the system. Okay. So, productive system is where you are doing value addition or you are using it to get the work done. It could be a fixed system, fixed position layout, or a single product system, or it could be a batch system, or it could be a mass system, or it could be a product layout or a process layout, or those kind of things. So, whatever it is done, they are all productive systems, they get the work done, they produce things. Okay. From there, so when you talk about how do you design them, how do you operate them, how do you improve them, how do you make them better or productive systems. So, it is a job of the productions and operations managers people to do that, and hence this is why this course is also relevant to that type of people. So, when we talk about the production and the firm, okay, initially how does this production business happened? Okay. So, initially think about it this way, there was a factory. Okay. Let us call this as a factory where the production happened, and you would like the factory to be as isolated as possible, you do not want it to be interacting with the external world. So, you have inputs coming from one place to the factory and outputs coming out of the factory. Okay. So, the inputs are like coming into the factory this way. So, factory people, they are focused on more doing the operations, making it efficient and those kind of things. So, they are not worried about where to go, where to buy the raw materials and everything. So, they created a department, let us say they call it as a purchase department, and then they told the purchase department, the factory people said, you deal with the external world, this is the external world. Okay. You do tendering, you do whatever you want to do and find these inputs and give it to us. So, the purchase departments interacts with the external world, find these inputs of the right quantity, quality and price. They do this and then they deliver them to the factory. Then the factory converts that into outputs, but the factory is also not worried about selling them. So, they created what they call as a sales department, and they tell the sales department, hey, go find out, deal with the external world, here is the external world, find the customer, okay, whoever is the customer, find the ways to find the customer and sell the product. So, the finished goods get out of this. So, the sales department started managing the sales of the finished goods, but then the factory cannot just run without human beings, you have to find trained manpower to do that. So, then they basically said to the, let us call it as a human resource department, which is popularly known as HR. Okay. It said, okay, you deal with the external world, okay, and external world, find us skilled people, and we will tell you how many people are required, and based on which you get us the skilled people to come and work in our factory. So, this is called as recruitment. Okay. So, we recruit people to come and work in the factory. Then in the meantime, you got the raw materials, you got the people, and you got the machinery, and you got a mechanism to sell, but you also need money to buy things. So, then they created something called as a finance department, where they said, okay, we require this much money, you go to the external world again, okay, and find money through loan, beg, borrow, steal, doesn't matter, and give us the money so that we can produce, or we can use the money to produce things, okay, like this. So, but later soon what happens is sales department will sell things, and then the money will go to the finance department on a light sense. Then all these guys who are actually working, because there is a production process in between, they now start to tell them what to do, in other words, okay, or in a way, this is where I jokingly say that the tail started to wag the dog, okay. In a lighter sense, we can say that this is the tail, and here is the, if I call this the dog, these are the tails, okay, right. If it finds offensive, that's we can have some fun about when we are doing this, okay. So, the production and the firm, okay, the idea of all of this is that isolate the transformation process. Why are we isolating the transformation process? Because to control it better. Why are we controlling it better? To increase efficiency. So, the transformation process, if you can work on this transformation process to increase its efficiency, that is where hence that is why it is, because of this you isolate from external influences. That is a primary reason, okay. And hence sometimes because of this isolation thing, many a times the identification of the environmental issues or the perspective of the environment, the external world, might have been lost from the production systems. And what in this sustainability, what we are also trying to do is, we are also trying to bring that perspective. Whatever we are doing here, whatever happens here, has an impact on the environment or the society. That is also an important consideration in the manufacturing systems. Also, we need to take a little bit look into the history of the system, and the first one, this whole production process or manufacturing, we are talking more into manufacturing or the production process, okay. So, it started with the 1700s, the industrial revolution. So, the journey begins. This is where it started. The industrial revolution created a scenario of developing factories or isolated production facilities, which can actually which focused on producing large quantities of the required product in the right quantity, right quality, right specification, all those kind of things, okay. Then after that, we got into the business of what we call as the steam engine, okay, which was created by and that this steam engine became what we call as the prime mover. So, the steam engine actually meant what it does is it created the prime mover, or source of energy. Okay. So, steam engine started there. From there, steam engine was used to build electricity and all those kind of things. We know the journey, but after some point of time, the energy started applying into the system in the introduction of steam engine. Okay. Then comes the wealth of nations. Adam Smith about economy, and economics came into picture, how that is part of that. Then came the concept of interchangeable parts. If you build system with interchangeable part, if one thing goes bad, pick from somebody else and use it. Then cost accounting, quality control systems, etc. came in 1800s. Then scientific management, the Taylor time studies, Gilbert Gantt chart, okay, which is basically what you call production planning, all those kind of stuff come into this picture. Okay. Then came mass production, the Toyota production systems, those kind of things, or not Toyota production system, mass productions, which is that time it is Ford. Okay. Then came human relations, importance of HR. Then was the part of mathematical tools, operation research tools to improve efficiency or make system better. This was going on. So, that is the linear programming, simulations, operations, that all came into. Then came the lean, JIT, TQM, CIM, all those kind of things, computer integrated manufacturing. In 2000 show the ERP, PLM, e-commerce, okay, where in IT, information technology, was merged with conventional manufacturing. Okay. So, then in turns we talk about the globalization, outsourcing, and we talk about green revolution. I am not talking about the green revolution of agriculture, farming or something like that. I am more talking about what we talking about it as green, or making things green, or making sustainable manufacturing. That is the main part of what we talk here. Also, one other aspects of manufacturing is that manufacturing is also a competitive process. Okay. The process is competitive purely because that there is a demand, okay, and the market conditions change rapidly. For example, if I am looking to buy a small car, I have multiple options. So, if the product is not available according to my wish, I will go to somebody else. So, the market conditions are rapidly changing, and it is demanding conditions because you need to satisfy the customer demand. So, your aim is to satisfy or meet the market needs, and so in the whole process is in the meantime you are expanding the income, okay, income of the citizens. That is also another aspect you need to do. So, to do all of these things, to produce goods and service at the same time, produce goods or deliver services at the same time while satisfying all these complicated goals, okay, requires you to be competitive. Okay. And in the drive for being more competitive, okay, sometimes the first thing that gets sacrificed is the environmental, ecological or sustainability concept. Okay. The main factors that are affecting the competitiveness, typically people will have a short term financial orientation. So, I just want to make as much money as possible. I do not care about I am going to use the really bad quality mineral oil based coolant available, which is going to be harming the environment like crazy. I do not care, I just want to make money. Lack of cooperation, okay, everybody says I will do, but will never do it. Like for example, many of the companies in India will say that, oh, we are in the process of controlling pollution, but they will not do anything to control or do effluent treatment or something like that. And leadership, human resources, weak human resources, and weakness in technological practices. You do not really know the latest cutting edge technologies or how to manage the some of the aspects related to it. And obviously, yes, here is what we call it about as a strategic weakness implies the thought process or inability to formulate an action plan. So, strategically some of the leadership might not be able to even address competitiveness. They will say, okay, I will sacrifice sustainability for competitiveness. Not necessarily. What we are talking about here is being competitive and sustainable at the same time. And there is another term that will come out of this, is also called as productivity. As I said earlier, it is a ratio of output to input. Okay. It is also efficiency. So, some people say I am working on efficiency, some say I am working on productivity. Okay. So, either way you are improving efficiency or you are improving productivity. So, the output implies what are typical outputs? Outputs are the quantity sold, products produced, customers served, meals delivered, call answered. There are many ways you can measure the output. Depending upon which industry you are dealing with, your output will change. Input implies labor, man hours, equipment investments, material usage, how much of factory square footage usage, etc. are all different type of inputs. One of the input that is important in this will be energy utilization. We will also look into worker environment. There will be also things like accessories that are non-sustainable, etc. So, there are other aspects also we will be considering as part of input, output, or where we will be quantifying, so that productivity and sustainability can be measured. So, typically people talk about productivity, we will come up with additional measures in addition to productivity, so that we can probably measure sustainability. As told earlier, most of the time people look the system from a process view. So, you look at individual steps, you focus on how do I get my basic job done, instead of looking at a strategic view, trying to see the whole picture. Okay. The system in which you are interacting with the entire system, the entire related environment and other aspects of it. So, my suggestion in this class would be that we will be little bit more focusing on the strategic view, and we will see how the strategic view translates to the process view. Okay. The strategy would be to achieve sustainability or achieve greenness, and what are the changes that are required in the process to achieve that. So, the aim is achieve a strategic goal for which suitable process changes / modifications are designed or implemented. Okay. So, that will be the aim in this course, is like we will use a strategic viewpoint to come up with a goal that on which we will actually achieve the required goal through by modifying the process. So, some of the issues, typically operational or production issues, is that some of the main things that we study in many of the places. Okay. And one of the things that we do not really study there is sustainability. One example is forecasting. It is always related to the demand, how much to produce, okay, how much we will be sending. Finance is how much money is required. Okay. Here is the aspects of money, how much money is required in this, how many employees are needed, human resources. Okay. What is the best location for operation, how big the facility should be, how many trucks are required to transport things, how much we should buy and stock, how much we should make the inventory, that is another aspects. How long our customer should wait, all these kind of things we study, different aspects of them in different courses. The thing that usually gets not is sustainability is rarely studied as part of this. Okay. Where is the sustainability concept? And this course is an attempt to introduce sustainability also as part of a sample operational issues. With that, we conclude today's lecture, and we will get into other details in the next class. Thank you for your patient hearing.